Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack some truly fascinating insights to discover how we can finally break through those invisible barriers holding us back from our true potential. If you've ever felt like you're just spinning your wheels but not actually getting anywhere, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
So, let's dive into this. I want you to take a brief moment and really think about what is preventing your progress right now. If you had to point a finger at the roadblock between where you are and where you want to be, what does that roadblock look like? Most of us immediately start thinking about our bank accounts, our bosses, the economy, maybe a lack of time, right? We look outward. But the insights we're unpacking today, they force us to look in a completely different direction.
And this fundamentally illustrates the core thesis we're looking at. The absolute biggest barriers to your progress and growth aren't the outside world or your external circumstances. Instead, they're the internal attachments, the beliefs, and the patterns of behavior that we just stubbornly cling to. It's a profound shift in perspective. It basically tells us that the lock is on the inside of the door.
Section 1. The invisible barriers. Identifying the walls.
Okay, so the crucial concept here is the architecture of internal release, and it is all about letting go. Think about it. Your personal call to adventure isn't being blocked by some physical dragon standing in your way. It's blocked by your own psychological dragons. To achieve progress, we don't necessarily need to acquire new skills or completely upend our environment right away. First, we have to identify what internal baggage we're dragging along with us, and then we have to drop it. Section 2. The trap of comfort, fear, and familiarity.
Fear is perhaps the most common internal attachment we have. And right at the top of that list is the fear of failure. It's that nagging voice in your head saying, "But what if I completely mess this up?" Holding on to this fear paralyzes our action before we even begin. It's literally what stops you from starting that side hustle or pitching that big idea, simply because the mere thought of falling short feels way too painful to even endure.
But get this, it's not just failure we're afraid of. We also harbor a deep fear of success. This one is incredibly common, but it rarely gets talked about. We hold on to the fear of what happens if we actually achieve our goals. Will the expectations be too high? Will we alienate our friends? Will the pressure just become unmanageable? This fear can cause us to unconsciously self-sabotage right when we're on the verge of a huge breakthrough.
Throw in the fear of judgment, worrying about what everyone else will think, and the fear of simply stepping into the unknown, and we've essentially built a perfect cage for ourselves. When we hold on to these specific fears, we completely prevent ourselves from stepping out of our comfort zone. We trade our true potential for this false sense of security.
Now, what's really wild about this trap is how it thrives on familiarity. We might cling to outdated routines, like, say, keeping a gym membership you haven't actually used in 2 years, or we hold on to relationships and situations that absolutely no longer serve us simply because venturing into the new feels too daunting. We trade our full capabilities and our ultimate growth just to stay in situations that are predictable and feel safe.
And fueling all of this, for sure, are our limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I always fail. It's too late for me. These are deeply ingrained convictions about ourselves or the world that artificially restrict what we believe is possible. They act as that heavy, invisible wall we discussed, literally preventing us from even attempting to grow. We accept them as hard facts when really they're just self-imposed fictions.
Section 3. The illusion of control, perfection, and rigidity.
We love to mask this barrier as a positive trait, don't we? Perfectionism. But the pursuit of an unattainable ideal is highly destructive. It traps us in this cycle of endless procrastination, like spending 3 hours tweaking the font on a presentation, creating a total unwillingness to release work that is actually perfectly good enough. By holding on to the need for everything to be flawless, we completely prevent completion. And without completion, there's absolutely no progress. Closely tied to perfectionism is the sheer need for control. The desire to control every single outcome or aspect of life guarantees rigidity. Holding on to this need actively hinders any collaborative progress. It creates an inability to adapt to changing circumstances. We fail to delegate to others, and we flat out refuse to simply trust the process. Let's face it, you can't navigate a changing world if your hands are gripped that tightly to the steering wheel.
All right, Section 4. Carrying the past, grievances, and old habits.
Think of your mental and emotional capacity as a finite pie. When you cling to past grievances, holding on to bitterness, anger, or a victim mentality about events or people from your past, it consumes almost all your emotional bandwidth. There's barely any space left for actually moving forward.
You're effectively using today's energy to fund yesterday's pain.
So the clearest, albeit probably the most challenging solution here is forgiveness. And listen, this isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about taking yourself off the hook. Whether that means forgiving others who have wronged you or forgiving yourself for past mistakes, it's the key that unlocks that trapped mental energy so you can finally use it for your future.
And we definitely have to look at the weight of the familiar in our daily routines. Even if a habit is unproductive or unhealthy, it can be incredibly difficult to let go of simply because it's what we know. Whether it's clinging to negative self-talk, unhealthy lifestyle choices, or even an excessive attachment to physical positions, like that one drawer full of old cables you swear you're going to need one day, these attachments constantly distract us from more meaningful pursuits and create deep anxieties that prevent bold action.
Bringing us to Section 5, choosing to let go, personal agency. The entire process of releasing these blocks really boils down to 3 steps. First, examine your internal landscape. Identify the specific fears, beliefs, or past grievances holding you back. Second, take personal responsibility. You have to stop blaming external factors for your lack of progress. And third, consciously choose to release the hold. Releasing isn't something that just happens to you out of nowhere. It's an active, conscious decision you have to make every single day. It really all comes down to this thought. Freedom and progress often come from letting go, rather than acquiring more. This single sentence completely flips our usual script on self-improvement. We're constantly taught that to achieve our potential, we need to add things, right? More money, more skills, more connections. But the truth presented here is that realizing your potential isn't about getting more things, it's about dropping the heavy baggage you've been unnecessarily carrying all this time. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to challenge your own invisible walls. Look inward. Identify that one heavy attachment, whether it's the need for perfection, a past resentment, or a fear of failure, and ask yourself, what are you going to release today? Because the exact moment you let it go is the moment you finally start moving forward. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll catch you on the next one.